Today I'll discuss the motion film Badass. In the opening scene, we meet a man named Frank Vega. Frank has persisted in many hardships, along with serving in the Vietnam War. One day, Frank is riding the general public bus to get somewhere while men step onto the bus. Instantly, the notion returned to his early life while he and his circle of relatives had a very humble life. He had a girlfriend as a younger man and planned to marry her after he finished serving in the military. After 10 years of being deployed to the Vietnam War, Frank again home to find out that his girlfriend were given married to every other guy and had children. Frank attempts to enroll within the police academy, but he has grown to become down despite his military enjoy. He turned into so badly in want of money that he spent the higher part of his existence selling hot dogs. However, then, a more efficient hot dog van stole all of his commercial enterprises. The remainder of his existence changed into then largely spent as a drifter. Back in the present, two racist disruptive men step onto the bus. They approach an innocent vintage black guy stressed that he wishes to move so that he will sit down in his seat. The old guy asks them to just go away with him by himself, but they forget about his request and say racial slurs toward him. One of the delinquents gets near the old man's face telling him to transport out of the seat over again. Finally, the antique guy has had sufficient, so he slaps him in the face. The man is prepared to assault the vintage man. When Frank grabs his arm to forestall him, they follow Frank lower back to his seat to combat him. But Frank warns them that he would not need any trouble. They attack him, so he beats up each of them, leaving them harmed and embarrassed on the ground unexpectedly. The heroic deed turned into captured on digital camera by means of several passengers, who later shared Frank's bravery on social media. After movies of Frank's heroic deeds went viral online, he have become a single-day sensation. He then was given the nickname Badass, and every person appreciates him for his status up for humans. His likeness often appears on t-shirts, and in graffiti, the cops even offer him to trip together with them. Not simple as that, but Frank and his mom were requested to appear on a speech display. However, Frank's mom passed away 3 months later, leaving him in a circle of relatives, domestic and canine. When Klondike, Washington, a close buddy and fellow Vietnam War vet, moves in with Frank, he gives him a USB hard pressure that carries important statistics. But Frank changed into uncertain of what became inside of the hard power, so he locked it away in a safe. One night, Klondike went shopping for cigarettes, but then two thugs named Terrence and Sebastian pressured as much as Klondike. They get out in their automobile and technique the old man annoying the flash drive he had given to Frank. Klondike tells them he doesn't have the flash pressure, but they don't trust him. This starts an issue between them because the thugs need the tough drive no matter what. They point a gun at him, telling him to offer them the drive. Then Klondike beats up both of the thugs, knocking them to the floor. Afterwards, he smiles over their bodies, questioning whether he is secure. However, he's shot and killed by one of the thugs. After listening to the information about Klondike's death, Frank went straight to the morgue to pay his respects. He additionally asks that the police conduct a radical research into the homicide with the intention to carry the ones accountable to justice. One night, Frank's pal, Malark, who's additionally a police officer, involves Frank's house and tells him that the police department is running tirelessly to discover who killed Klondike. After witnessing the cops joking around and doing nothing to clear up the case, Frank first appears in the alley where Klondike was shot. He does a little digging and discovers used shell casings and a locket with a girl's photo interior. After this, Frank goes to a pawn shop with the used bullet inside the lock, wherein he is instructed by means of the shopkeeper that the lock belongs to a person named Terrence, and that the woman inside the photograph is his wife. Frank right away is going to Terrence's house after acquiring the address. However, when he arrives, it turns out that Terrence isn't there, and his spouse is complaining that he hasn't been home for a week. After giving Terrence's spouse returned her lock, Frank asks her wherein he should discover him. Terrence's wife exhibits that he has been in the park gambling basketball, leaving her and the youngsters without their father for over every week. Frank rushes there right now to confront him there. He talks to a few younger guys who are playing basketball, but they aren't friendly and don't need to assist him in locating Terrence. Instead of helping, the younger men mock Frank, leading him to lose his mood and start beating them up. They recognize he is too precise of a fighter, so they decide to tell him what they understand. They admit to Frank that they failed to understand Terrence's genuine place and tell him to go locate Ronaldo, one in every of Terrence's close friends that could understand who he is. Frank sooner or later visits Ronaldo's rental, where he is attacked by using Ronaldo's roommate. However, Frank, without difficulty, subdues him and demands to understand who Ronaldo is. His roommate tells him that he should locate him at a local bar that night time. Later, Frank asks a number of the human beings at the bar in which he can locate Ronaldo. This makes them indignant, so they begin a fight with him. However, Frank beats the shit out of all and sundry one by one. After knocking out more than one man by means of himself, the bartender stops the combat and tells him Ronaldo is upstairs. Frank takes a shot and heads up the steps, kicking the door all the way down to the room. Ronaldo is internal with strippers. However, whilst Frank asks wherein Terrence is, Ronaldo pulls out a knife. Frank, without difficulty, smashes him through a window, threatening to drop him over the ledge if he does not inform him in which Terrence is. Frank learns that Terrence is a relationship with a girl by means of the name of Tatiana, so it truly is where he can discover him. Then he walks away, leaving him, putting off the balcony. The scene then changes to expose Panther, the boss of Terrence and Sebastian, who is the chief of a gang. Panther is having a critical communication with Major Williams, a corrupt mayor, who tells him to find Klondike's stolen Flash Force Speedy. It turns out that the mayor was corrupt within the Beyond and that there has been proof of his wrongdoings on the flash drive. It is revealed right here that Klondike and Panther as soon as work together. However, Klondike, in the end, determined to go away from them and betray Panther by stealing the essential Flash Force from Major Williams. In order to decipher the facts at the flash pressure, Frank asks for help from Martin, a young neighbor who lives next door. Later that nighttime, he visits Tatiana at a massage parlor to get statistics about Terrence's whereabouts. The lady refuses to cooperate. So when she turns to depart after paintings, Frank follows her and returns to her residence. Frank enters Tatiana's domestic and reveals Terrence on a mattress with Tatiana. Terrence grabs his gun but accidentally shoots and kills Tatiana at the same time as seeking to shoot Frank. Frank punches him and then brings him downstairs to the rubbish disposal. He turns it on and tortures him by putting his hand inside the garbage disposal, brutally cutting off all of his arms. Finally, after setting his hand in her at more than one instance, he breaks down and tells Frank what he desires to understand. He explains that a drug lord named Panther killed Klondike for stealing the flash pressure he had been given, which includes data about a mystery plan to drill for oil within the area for Major Williams's dad and mom. He also informs Frank of the Panther's whereabouts. Frank went home to prepare for his fight with Panther, and at the same time as there, he heard a commotion in Martin's region. Amber, Martin's mom, is fighting with her abusive husband, and Frank tries to intrude. Frank stops the husband and scares him away. So Amber comes to a decision to invite Frank over for dinner at her residence when you consider that he stored her. Frank did now not throw away this threat. He attires up first-class shaves and brushes his tooth for the duration of the meal. Frank asks Amber if he can hold her matchbook as a souvenir, and they concur. They lean in for a kiss. However, Martin Jr. interrupts them. Frank has insisted that Amber and Martin stay at his residence even as he fixes her door. The following day, Frank hands the flash drive over to Officer Malark and goes to find Panther. Frank's arrival had reputedly been expected by Panther, who had given orders for an ambush to be set up in case Frank didn't return the flash drive returned to Panther. Frank is sooner or later overpowered with the help of Panther's men, taken hostage, and tortured with electroshock to reveal the area of the flash force. Frank, notwithstanding being tortured, maintains to refuse to reveal the location of the flash power to Panther. Each time Panther asks him wherein it's miles, Frank replies, "It is on your ass." Panther, annoyed with the aid of Frank's refusal to budge, steals his wallet and makes use of the information to song down his domestic and own family, assuming it is wherein Frank hit the flash drive. Panther then orders his guys to continue torturing Frank while he and his henchmen rush to Frank's domestic to head harm Amber and locate the flash force. In no time in any respect, Frank could break free of his restraints and toss lead in shape that he had received from Amber at several of the oil drums saved within the construction, resulting in an explosion. Even though Panther gets away, Frank keeps seizing up with him. They each steal buses, engage in twin damage, several different cars in pursuit of the stolen ones, and ultimately destroy each bus on foot. Again in pursuit of Panther, Frank runs into the two thugs he assaulted on the bus. The thugs try and redeem themselves for their preceding defeat at Frank's arms via the use of a cellular telephone to file themselves murdering Frank. Still, Frank quickly regains the upper hand and embarrasses them again. In the end, Panther arrives at Frank's place, where he finds Amber. Panther tells Amber he will kill her if she doesn't inform him where the hard drive is. But Frank arrives there in time to keep Amber. They combat all of the manners out to the front backyard wherein Amber, in the end, jumps on Panther's lower back to assist Frank in shopping for Frank some time to recover and finish off the thug. Major Williams's connection to the Panther scandal became found in the media, and the police arrested him after Panther was apprehended. The story ends with Frank, Amber, and Martin as their family. Thank you for watching. Please click on one of the movies on the screen now and subscribe to join the Riddle Recap Circle of Relatives.